Hi guys, welcome to Time Out Show. It's your girl Sheila here. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I know you're probably thinking this is different. Like, what's Sheila doing? This is different. Yes, I know this is different from my typical content, but it is for a good reason and a good cause. I felt like this information all just needed to be in one place for people to access. So that's what I did. I know so far my channel has been heavily focused on makeup and skincare, but one of the key reasons why I actually joined the YouTube community was to be able to provide information to people the same way that many YouTube videos out there have helped me. Every now and then when I'm very passionate about a topic or when I'm very passionate about something, I will be doing one of these videos. I'll be doing something different. So yeah, but anyways, you're not really here to hear about my philosophies and whatever else is going on in my head. You click on this video because you're probably looking for a graduate job right now, or just any job, right? Probably looking to get a role somewhere very soon, after graduating, or maybe you're even still like in your second year of uni and you still have so much time. That's great. Or you're almost at the end and you really need this job right now. That's okay too. I'm here to give you guys all the information you need to secure the bag. So I'm going to be talking about how to secure a role after graduation, and with a lot of emphasis on tips and tricks to help international students. It's fast as hard for international students because there's an extra layer of complexity in there. So let's get straight into my tips. So before you think of sending out your CV to your dream company for that dream role that you've been thinking about since you're a kid, you want to take a minute. You want to pause. You want to brainstorm, and you want to soul search. I am not joking. It's very important to get this step done before you actually get into the recruitment process. So when I say brainstorm, what am I talking about? So you need to be thinking about things like what type of roles you want to apply for. There's different ways to approach this. Some people have known since they were 5 years old that they wanted to become medical doctors, and there is no other, professional career out there for them, and that is what they're going to apply for, and that makes sense. That's okay. Some people, they're like, I don't know, I'm down to explore, I'm down to try something out. If it doesn't work out, move on to something else. I'm just, I just want a job. It's okay to feel that way. I felt that way. I just wanted a job. I just wanted to feel secure and just feel like I had a job. So that's okay. So how can you figure out what kind of roles you enjoy? Typically, I'll say think about what you're passionate about, think about your values, think about your long-term goals. You can also think about, modules or lectures you've been to and which ones you particularly enjoyed, or which ones positively challenged you and you think would align with your long-term goals. You also need to be thinking about what skills you currently have. What are you good at? What do you thrive in doing? Are you the planner of the group? Are you the person who's always the leader in the group? You need to think about what you're good at. And then you need to think about what do you want to get better at. I know we all kind of go and apply for jobs, we see the job descriptions and we see what the companies want, and sometimes we kind of almost forget about what we want from the companies. And that's a very easy trap to fall into because you're just thinking, okay, it's a job, it's going to pay the bills, cool. Listen, if you do like what you do, or at least if it aligns with your values and what you want to do, it will help you to enjoy, or at least be able to survive and thrive in that role a little more. So this is why these are quite important things to think about, because you don't want to be just doing a job just for the paycheck and nothing else. But then again, listen, between me and you, with the inflation and everything that's happening, I wouldn't blame you if you're just looking for the paycheck, okay? It's okay. I understand. But here's the catch though. A lot of these companies don't tell you what salary you're gonna get until they send you the contract. I don't know why I'm whispering, but we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, a lot of these companies don't be telling you how much you're gonna earn until literally you get the contract. And if they do advertise very boldly, if a company is paying significantly above market prices, before you click apply, I beseech you, I beg you, go and find someone on LinkedIn who works at the company and ask them for their honest opinion. Try and find someone who's just been in the role a couple months or maybe less, a year, whatever. It's not someone too high up there who, obviously can't say because, whatever. But go and find someone who's just been in there, someone who's just like adjusting to the company. They will tell you the real tea. They're probably working 10 to 10. Like their whole life is probably that job. But again, we're not going to talk about, I digress. The next thing you need to be thinking about is what previous work experience you have. Remember that your work experience doesn't have to be directly related to the role you want to apply for, because regardless of what the experience was, you will have gained transferable skills. Transferable skills are essentially skills that you pick up on a project or on a job which you can use somewhere else. Such skills are like problem solving, communication, leadership, things like that. Once you have a decent idea of what you want, what skills you have, and what you're passionate about, the next thing you're thinking about is, how can I upskill myself, right? I know that's probably the last thing you want to be hearing, because you're probably still in uni. You're thinking to yourself, I haven't even handed in my coursework. I have a dissertation due. I have this project due. Like, I don't have time to be upskilling myself. I get it. If someone told me this back then, I would have been like, I don't have time. My degree was kicking my ass. So I was not about to dedicate any more time into upskilling myself at that point in time. So, however, that was not a problem for me as such, because the roles I wanted to apply for my degree kind of already gave me an edge. So, yes, an extra edge would have, sealed the deal, shall I say, but I already had an edge. So I was like, it's fine. Like, I just need to get through this. But one thing I will say though, however, is the job market that in 2020 is very different from the current job market. The job market right now is saturated. There is a lot of candidates out there. There are a lot of people applying. There's not enough demand, but there's so many people who are qualified for jobs, and you need to be ready to put in the work to make yourself stand out. Once you've thought about what roles you want to apply to, what skills you have, and what skills you might need to secure those roles that you want, then and only then can you go about the process of applying to jobs. Now you know what you want, now you know what you have to offer, and now you know what you need to learn, and now you need to start thinking about your CV. Is your CV good enough? Do you even know what a good CV looks like? Because I didn't. I thought I did, but I didn't. You need to get your CV sorted out before your recruitment season starts. Ideally, when you're in your penultimate year of uni, that's when you need to be working harder than ever to get your CV done. You don't want to be doing this when companies have already started advertising the job vacancies, because you will only be setting yourself back. Now, if you've decided that, you're like me and you want to apply to different sectors, you want to apply to banking, consulting, finance, whatever, just bear in mind that you do need different CVs for different sectors. So don't let this be daunting. The first step is to get your master CV sorted. And now your master CV is the CV that tells the story of, who you are in its entirety, right? Depending on how much experience you have, the master CV can get quite long. For genuine people who are going directly from uni into the workforce, most times, we don't have that much experience, so your master CV is probably going to be a max of 2 pages. You're probably thinking, listen, I've only been in uni my whole life, like I haven't done much. What am I supposed to write on a CV? I get you. I get that, and I get that it's quite hard to sell yourself as well. But the thing is, most sane companies understand that you're a graduate, you've just left uni after years in education. You probably don't have that much experience. I said most sane companies because from research and from talking to different people, I realized that there are companies out there who are asking people in entry-level roles to have 2 to 3 years of experience, and that just doesn't seem fair, and it's not. I'll circle back to this shortly just to give you guys an idea of how you can navigate those kind of situations. Now, getting back to the CVs. It's so weird being so serious on all of these. My next tip is to show everyone you can your CV. But when I say show everyone your CV, I mean show knowledgeable people your CV. You need to be careful when it comes to getting feedback from different people on your CV, because you might get to a point when you start getting conflicting feedback. For instance, you might decide to show a trusted lecturer your CV. Now, what you have to bear in mind is that lecturer potentially might have been in academia their whole career, and so they don't necessarily know, what the buzzwords or what your CV needs to look like for you to secure a job out there. So they might be focusing more on the technical aspects of your CV, like, they might be focusing on more like, oh, you need this to be technically detailed, that kind of thing, because that's what they know and that's what they're gonna, try to advise you on. And that stuff is important for it to be technically correct, but a lot of the time, not really, because when you put too much technical jargon into a CV, you need to remember that your CV is going to first go in front of HR, who potentially knows nothing about your role. So you're not impressing them, you're only confusing them. So if you think your CV is a bit too technical, you might want to dial it down a bit and save a bit of that for your interview. The last thing I want to see on CVs is get professional help. Get professional help. Okay? You don't know it all. There are multiple ways you can get professional help, and my absolute favorite way, because it's absolutely free, is going to your uni's career service. Honestly, if you don't know at least 2 people on that team on a first name basis, you're doing it wrong. You need to be best friends with your career service. They need to know you. You need to, you know what I mean? Like, you need to be serious. You need to stay focused. Those are your allies. I'm not lying. Those are your allies. They are more important to you than your lecturers at uni, because let's be honest, half of us out here, half of us watching this are learning a lot of our content on YouTube anyways, or off the internet, or someone's answered the coursework question online and we found it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's how it actually was done, yada yada yada. The lecturers are important, yes, I salute them, but your career service team is very, very important. They can help you. I would say, get as many meetings with them as you can until there's nothing but positive reviews on your CVs. A little story time from personal experience. And so I was trying to get an industrial placement in uni, and I was like, yeah, cool. Like, I went online. I was like, what does a good CV look like? I set up my CV, blah blah. I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And then the jobs were coming. I was applying to the jobs, and I just noticed, like, for a very long time, I was getting absolutely nowhere. I'm not joking. It was like almost spontaneous. It was like spontaneous. The rejections were spontaneously combusting on my inbox. Like, they were just like, there you go. They were like, bye. And I'm like, I got the grades, right? I'm like, bruh, I know I'm not stupid. I know. I was like, I got the grades. I know this can't be a grade thing. So I'm like, what's going on here? Thankfully, I woke up, I smelt the roses, and I went to the career services, and I was just like, oh, like, actually, initially, I went there for interview help, because I don't even know why I was going for interview help, because I wasn't even getting interviews, but I was just like, am I prepared, whatever. And then the career service was like, oh, can I see your CV as well? And
it was at this moment that she knew she fucked up.
If you guys saw the before and after pictures of my CV, you would be shocked. You would not think that was the same person telling their life story. Like, even I was shocked. Even I didn't believe that I was that new person. I was like, oh, that me? Like, and and after then getting this new version of my CV, I obviously continued applying, but I was actually getting a lot further in the recruitment stage. And guys, do not underestimate the importance of a good CV. I know that you're probably thinking, oh yeah, we know this already. Don't underestimate the importance of a good CV. It is very, very important. I would say with the career service, they're not going to like up and write your CV for you. They're going to guide you, point you in the right direction. They're going to, show you samples. They're going to, hopefully they're going to help you the best they can, but you will get out of it what you put into it. So if you're, challenging them, not challenging them in a good way, like, you're helping them help you, you need to help them help you, essentially. That's the best way that's going to work. You need to keep on going back until they have no comments except just go apply. Like, they're like, go apply. This is great. That's where you need to be at before you start applying. There are also companies out there who offer CV writing services. Personally, I haven't used any of them, but I know there are companies out there, and they do the stuff. I, however, cannot blindly recommend them to you because I haven't tried them, and I don't know quite a lot of people who have. But there are companies out there that do it. I just thought that I would let you know that is an option. If it is a great option or a good option or a bad option, I don't know. I have no say in that. I'm just letting you guys know the complete picture. And the final thing to note about CVs is that depending on the companies you're applying for, your CV might be automatically scanned by a machine, or it would actually just end up on HR's desk and they will actually sift through it. How can you tell which is which? Unfortunately, you can't. I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but yeah, there are companies out there who don't use automated screening of CVs. I know of some from conversations with recruiters. So you really can't know, if your CV is going to be screened by a computer, if your CV is going to be screened by someone in the HR team. You don't know. The thing is, if your CV is good, it shouldn't really matter. Another way to combat that is by using keywords in your CV. So if you have like 4 to 5 lines, describing an experience you have or a project you worked on, I would choose 1 or 2 words that, kind of pique the interest of the reader, and then I would make them italics and bold. It kind of catches their eye, and then when they do read it, they're like, interesting, I want to read more, like I want to find out more. And you can also use keywords in the same way to kind of help you when your CV is being screened by a computer. So there's likely to be keywords in your job description. Job description can say we're looking for a team leader, or we're looking for a team member, or someone who works well with teams, right? It would be intelligent of you to put in the word team or teamwork. Something team. Like, put in the word team at least once in your CV. And that already makes your CV more compatible for the role. So these are the things you need to be thinking about when you're writing your CV. But like I said, hopefully if you have a good career service at your university, sit down with them one-on-one and think about everything I've said so far, you'll be able to, produce a banging CV that will get you through that first stage. Okay. The next topic I want to cover is cover letters. You see, everything I've just said about CVs, same applies to cover letters. One thing I'll say though is when you're writing cover letters, please make sure that you're not addressing cover letters to the wrong company. I said for CVs, you should have a CV for each kind of sector you want to apply to. You should kind of have a cover letter for each sector you want to apply to as well. But before you click send, make sure that if you're applying to KPMG, the cover letter doesn't say, I want to join EY because. HR gonna look at that and be like, well, you applied to the wrong place. Go join EY then. Okay, maybe they might not rip it off, maybe not, but it's sloppy. It doesn't look good. It doesn't give you an edge. It just makes you look careless. It just makes you look not put together. It just makes you it's not good, right? So be careful about that. It happens to the best of us. I'm pretty sure I probably made that mistake at some point. Well, what is the point of me making mistakes if you all can't learn from it? Okay, so moving on, I'd like to talk about recruitment season. Typically for graduate roles or entry-level roles, recruitment season typically starts at the beginning of the school year. So in September, you start getting 1 or 2 companies advertising their job roles, and like goes on from there. However, for some more extremely competitive roles, they do start advertising like in August and July. Okay, never earlier than that, typically. But yeah, but that's if you're going for a standard graduate role. Or if you're not looking for that, then there are things available throughout the year, and you can always try to look every now and then. Or better still, you could just set up alerts on, LinkedIn, Grad Cracker, and other job sites. But obviously make it relevant job sites, and don't spam yourself with. And then that leads me to the following point, which is deadlines. The matter of fact is most of these jobs being advertised, there is a deadline for you to apply, and you do need to get your application in ASAP. But when you're doing 100, whatever, couple hundred applications you're going to be doing throughout this process, if you're not organized, some of these roles might slip through the crack. So what I found particularly helpful was automating my whole application process. I'll talk about that a little later as well. But like essentially, I would have the company, I would have the role I wanted to apply for. For some companies, I would even apply to 2 separate roles if they allowed that, because some companies don't allow that. So be careful with that. Make sure you read like fully what they allow. Some companies don't allow you to apply for 2 separate roles in the same company, some do. So that's something to watch out for as well. So I would have the company name, the role, the deadline, and then I'll have the sector, right? So this goes back to me having different CVs. So if it was like a consulting role, then it'll be in the consulting sector. So that way, when when I'm thinking, or when I'm doing applications for it, or when I'm thinking, or when I need to do anything for it, I know exactly what kind of materials I need to go and be looking at. I need to go look at my consulting CV, my consulting cover letter, and like any other consulting material that I have. Like I had like different folders for these different sectors. So again, this is why I said that very first point that we discussed is very, very important to keeping you organized throughout this process. The one thing that people don't tell you enough about, applying for jobs, is that you really need to be organized. You really need to know what you want. You really need to know what you're doing. Otherwise, it will get a bit daunting and overwhelming. Don't get me wrong, it is still going to be a bit overwhelming regardless of however amazingly you do this, but this will at least take away some of the stress from having to constantly figure out what you want to write or say or do in that specific moment, because you already have a script for it. Right. Moving on, the next tip I would say is attend job fairs. Now, in first year and second year, I always thought job fairs were just, I was like, what is this? Like, what's the point? Like, it's not like I'm going to walk up to you and get the job. You're just going to give me the, like, I was like, there's no point in this. But there is a way to optimize your job fair. So again, I'm going to focus a bit more heavily on on international students here. So when you go to a job fair, typically there is, a pamphlet or a leaflet or whatever available to show you all the companies at the fair. If there isn't, that's fine too. Just get your pen and your paper and walk up to each stall, write down the name of the company, just kind of get an idea of what they do. And obviously after they've given you the initial pitch or whatever, the first question you need to be asking straight off the bat is, do you sponsor visas? That's it. Time is money. And if they say, yes, we do, great. You can continue the conversation to find out more about the company if you so wish. If they say, no, we don't, keep it pushing, like on to the next one. If they don't know, a lot of times people don't know because they're not, too familiar with that side of things. They might be like, oh, we're not sure. Just ask them for their contact details, like maybe an email address, or just say, is it okay for me to add you on LinkedIn to follow up? And if they say no, you can still say, okay, who within the company do you think I could be asking this question to? Because the last thing you want to do is apply to a company that can't sponsor visas. It's a waste of time. This process actually takes time, and there's usually so many companies at these things. Personally, me and my friend, we kind of tag teamed them. It was two of us. We just kind of took opposite ends of the building and worked our way around it, and then came together and was like, okay, they sponsor for sure. They don't sponsor for sure. They're maybes. But job fairs are a great opportunity for networking. Obviously, I know I've said go straight to the point and ask them the question point blank simple. Yes, please do that, but please don't be rude about it. Let's practice something. So say you've just told me all the amazing thing your company does. I'm like, that is so amazing. I'm actually quite interested in blah, blah, blah that you've mentioned. But actually, I'm an international student. I just wanted to find out, do you guys sponsor visas for international students? That's it. I've said to you, oh my God, I acknowledge what you said. I actually am interested in what you said. And now I've asked you a question, and more times they're going to go, oh yes, we do. They're going to talk about how they don't discriminate. They how they don't discriminate and they don't check that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, cool, whatever. They're going to tell you all that. And you'll be like, oh, cool, that's nice. And depending on how much further they want to take the conversation, do that. But the good thing about job fairs is that they expose you to companies that you probably have never heard of as well. And don't just stay within your uni. My uni was in London, and I was at a job fair in London. And I specifically remember that was probably the best job fair I've ever went to. It was by Bright Network. If I can find the details somewhere, I don't know if they still do it. If I can still find the details somewhere, I will link it, their page or whatever, to the description box. It was such a good job fair. Like, it was what actually changed my mindset about job fairs, because previously to that, like, I didn't feel like I was getting as much information as I could have been at those things. But again, I think it was just I wasn't utilizing them the way I should have been utilizing them. So next I'm going to talk about it, which is focused towards international students. Know what companies to apply for. So the first thing I did with respect to this was somewhere on the UK government website that tells you what companies are licensed to sponsor visas. Now, being licensed to sponsor visas versus actually wanting to do it or doing it for entry level roles is a very different thing, right? So take for instance GSK. They're a big company, and for the longest time I've always wanted to work for JSK, and I found the role I wanted to apply for, and I searched high and low, right? I searched high and low to see if they sponsored visas, right? And obviously in this government document that I found, they were shown to be licensed to sponsor visas, so they do have the capability to sponsor visas. That was known to me, right? But it wasn't clear if they would for that role. Think about it this way. It's like they have the license to sponsor your visa, but what happens with a lot of these companies is that although they have the license, they tend to do it for roles in which like the skill set that those people deliver is so like impactful to the business compared to like someone who they have to train up to do what they want to do. What I'm trying to say with this is that I know that there's not always going to be complete and utter clarity on if some companies sponsor or not. But at the very minimum, check that they're on this list of companies that are licensed to sponsor visas. And if they are, just try your very best to get firm confirmation on whether or not, they do. I'll say definitely like 9% of all the roles you apply for, please, please, please make sure that they are roles that you know for sure, for certain, that they will sponsor your visa. And then the other 10%, just keep your fingers crossed, just like I get it. I get it, and that's why I've told you guys the story about JSK. I get the impulse to want to join a specific company and you don't know, so you're also not ready to give up on that dream because of you're uncertain, so you just try your luck. I get it. But well, at least now I could help say that JSK doesn't sponsor graduate visas, so you know that now. So I hope I've saved you some time. Okay, so I know that recent graduates have the graduate visa, or more popularly known as the post-study visa. That is great. I'm kind of two minds about that visa. And I feel like the UK has done that for very strategic reasons to benefit themselves. They've left the EU. There's, shortage in workers. There's everything that's happening in the last 2 years has impacted the economy. Like, it's impacted everyone. So that graduate visa they've presented to us, yes, sounds amazing on first glance, but it is very important to be very aware that yes, when you're done with your master's or undergraduate degree or whatever it is you studied in, and you can apply for this 2-year visa. So everyone's kind of getting a bit excited and a bit lackadaisical about finding a job. Everyone's like, oh yeah, well, if I don't get a job by the time I'm done with my degree, I can just get the 2-year visa. In that time, apply for a job. Now, that's perfectly fine. That's okay. Ain't nothing wrong with that. And I actually get the appeal, you get to focus on just finishing your degree and then you can focus on getting a job. However, I think that you should be very careful with this, because if you don't have the finances to support you during that 2-year period, you might run into a bit of a problem. So if you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to do nothing, and I'm just going to apply for jobs until I get one, cool. But do you think HMRC is going to pay your rent or your bills or put food in your mouth or anything? They're not going to do that. So you need to make sure that you've thought about the finances and you've thought about, what that 2-year period actually looks like. A lot of people just think, well, that's 2 years in which I don't necessarily have to go back to my country, or I don't have to go back home. Obviously, a lot of people who've moved to the UK have done that because situations back home aren't great, and that's reasonable. I know on the visa you are allowed to work. You're allowed to work. You're allowed to get any type of job. But the thing is that a lot of employers won't take you still. Even though you have this, this 2-year visa that you should technically be able to work on, a lot of companies would be like, well, we're looking for someone who can potentially stay on long term, so we can't do it. So now the 2-year visa that you have is kind of almost working against you in a way. If you can, definitely 100% and get a job offer before before you're done with your degree. That way you just move straight from the tier 4 visa to the tier 2 visa. I'm not saying it's easy, but that would be ideal. At the end of the day, if your goal is to get like indefinite leave to remain within the UK, I'm pretty sure that the graduate visa is not going to count towards the number of years that you need to get indefinite leave to remain. So it's a good thing. It's a waste of time. It's a lot of things. So I would say that you want to be really careful when it comes to the whole 2-year kind of leeway that you think you have. You want to try your best to get that role, get that job as soon as you're coming out of uni or you're finishing your degree. Set yourself up for greatness and just, forget about this whole graduate visa thing. Like, it's good for people who, if you desperately feel like you need it, sure, but don't put off doing all that work just because you feel like you have 2 years to do it, because it's not going to be easy to do it within those 2 years as well, because you have to think about the fact that even within that 2 years, you're going to have to find a job in the meantime that's going to pay your bills. That itself is going to be a hard thing to do, except if you're only looking for like, I'm not gonna if you're only looking for like temporary or like part-time roles, or like, working at a retail store or things like that. If you're happy doing that, then sure. But again, when you're doing that, you're still gonna have to apply for jobs while holding down a job, which is also a very difficult thing to do. So you might think that, oh yeah, this is 2 years of time that you have to spend applying for jobs and getting it right. It's not really, and it's a really risky thing to rely on. So I just, that's my thoughts on it. But again, I kind of get it. It's also useful for like people who, for instance, they want a year off they want a year off everything. For instance, like if you are financially stable enough to take a year off education and working, and you're like, you know what, I want a year just to like travel, just to do, things here and there, and then come back to it, then that's great. Like, it all depends on, I think my thing is just think it through. Don't just assume that you have 2 years to do this magical thing. I'll postpone the whole process of trying to find a job simply because I have 2 years to get a job. You have to think about, what that 2 years actually looks like for you and your personal situation. Now, let's talk about those entry-level jobs that are asking for 2 to 3 years experience. Where do they expect you to get this experience from? Now, there's no easy way to say it. It's bonkers. It doesn't make sense. But there is a way out. You need to read the phrasing of what they've said. If they say, for instance, we need 2 years experience working with a specific software, that's a bit different from they need 2 years of experience working in a company or whatever, right? So if it's really specific, you need to kind of try and decide what that is actually saying to you. So if you're lucky and it's saying 2 years of experience using a specific software and you have that, then great. You can have that by, for instance, let's say you personally picked up that software years ago and you've been working on it personally, like you've been upskilling, as I said before, you've been working on it. That is 2 years of experience. It's not technical experience in the sense that you did it at a job, but it is 2 years you've been working on it, right? You can tick that box temporarily and be like, yeah, I got that. And you can be like, yeah, I have that. And I guess then in the interview stages and, whatever other kind of tests they have for you, that's where that will really show that you do have the experience or not. Personally, I shied away from applying for jobs that I felt underqualified for. If I'm being honest, I did I did, have my moments where I clicked for that job that said they needed some crazy level experience, and I was like, yeah, I got it, whatever. Um, Obviously, I didn't get those roles, but um, again, this whole process is a bit of it's a bit like the lottery, right? You kind of have to stack the odds in your favor, and that kind of brings me to talking about getting work experience slash internships early on in your university degree. No one tells you these things. Like, no one tells you the important stuff. I didn't even know that an internship could set you up for success at the end until almost last minute. I was very lucky to be able to have gotten an internship for my third year, after my third year. So the summer between my third year and my fourth year, I had an internship. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure that helped my process as well. So no one told you how important these things are. So if you're watching this video and you're just starting your degree, you're in first year, you or second year, wherever you are, you need to start. It's first of all, it's absolutely great that you're thinking about your future already, like amazing, and you need to just start hunting for these experiences. But and the other thing that getting experience does for you is it kind of helps you decide what you don't like and what you like. I know that, 6 weeks or 4 weeks here and there is a short time to decide if you really like something, but you will get a gist of what it's about. And I feel like if you're going to hate something, you will know. And if you're going to like it, you'll be like, maybe I'll like that. Okay, so my next tip would be to automate the process as much as possible. You don't want to be wasting time. I tried to automate and organize the process as much as I could. Depending on how like tech savvy you are, you can obviously spice it up, speed it up, however you can as well. But like, you really want to try and cut time. You want to try and save time, especially when it's like at the initial stages where you're just sending out CVs and cover letters and stuff like that. Like, that is not the time you want to be spending 50 minutes per application, right? I'm not saying rush it. It's not just about the quantity, it's also about the quality. In science teaching, you're going to have to work twice as hard. You're going to have the quantity and you're going to have the quality. There is no other way, period. That's it, done. So now, that's it, done. And my final tip and my final thing is keep going. I know that those rejections hurt. Those rejections feel personal. Those rejections feel like they saw your CV specifically and they were like, no, we don't want you. Those rejections feel like those rejections hurt. Those rejections cut deep. I'm not gonna lie, because it kind of affects you. But honestly, keep going. Make sure you have a support system. This process was one of the processes that made me realize that I can't do everything by myself, and I needed that person or someone, or at least a couple people, that be able to like openly speak to about it, because otherwise you will go stir crazy and you'll just take everything personally. But it's not personal, it's a numbers game. The company has their quota to fill. There's so many people applying, only so many people can get the job. It's a numbers game. It's just numbers. It's not personal to you. Try not to be overwhelmed by the process. If you need to take a break, if you need to take a step back, if you need to give yourself a nice self-care day, take one day off where you don't think about jobs, you don't look at jobs, you don't just whatever, go go on a night out with your friends, whatever you need to do. Take a day off every now and then. Just, your mental health is always important. Your mental health is very important. In fact, like, there's no point going crazy before you even get the job, because when you get the job, you're still going to be stressed. But I know obviously you're like, yeah, it's easy to say that when you have a job offer, but like, stress is almost a constant in life. How you handle it is what matters. I'm trying to make it sweet and short, even though it probably isn't. But yeah, I hope that some of these tips have been helpful. I hope that me sharing my experience has been useful to you. If you have any questions, if you want to know anything, please leave a comment and I will try to reply to it as soon as possible. I will also try to get the second part of this video up as soon as possible. I know that this video is going up in September. Don't hold me to that. And this video is going up in September, which is already like a bit into the recruitment season. So I kind of want you guys to have all the information you need as soon as possible. So I will be doing that. But yeah, watch out for part 2. If you guys found this video useful, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notification button so you don't miss when I upload the next part. And I will speak to you guys some other time. Stay blessed and happy.